Hello, everyone, and welcome back to All Too Well Read.
Hey, it is so good to be back.
I know, right? We recorded. It just feels good to be. I don't know. I feel like every time we hop on the pod, I'm like, it's good to be back. Even though we recorded last week, it
Yeah.
hasn't been long, but it's always
No,
good to be back.
I guess I'm just like thankful to be here. It's just like it's an exciting thing to be able
It
to
is.
hop on and do this.
It
So,
is. It really, really is. It's been so fun. I feel like we've been I don't know. I don't know if it's Gemini season. I just feel like I'll speak for myself, but I know you've also been in your reading era. Like I feel like since we crashed out from Onyx Storm, we've really been in our reading era, flying through the books. Thank God. I feel like we really like my soul needed that.
yeah.
I'm like, can I at least get through like 4 books in a month? You know what I mean? And let this happen. So I feel like we're like back,
Yeah. I agree. Like
if that makes sense.
this past weekend, I read 2 books in 3 days, and I was like, "This is great." Granted, I literally did nothing else. It was a very rainy, few days, so, like, I had the space to do it. Um, but yeah, it just felt good to, just binge a book and be obsessed with it and not have to, clown or have a cliffhanger or,
Ugh.
be completely destroyed. Um,
Uh,
you know?
totally. Totally. Reading contemporary romance after fantasy, I think is like to me they're my favorite combination.
Mhm.
They really are. One, I don't do any books if there's no romance in it. I'm sorry. You got to keep me interested, and that's the only thing that keep me interested. I'm sorry. One, two. After you read, I feel like a hardcore like series in the fantasy world where there's so much going on and there's so much plot. Like there is just nothing like cracking open a book and I'm reading about and we're reading about Lori. You know what I mean? Like at the doctor's office and meeting so and so. I don't know. It's just and it's one off. The story ends.
And it's happily ever after.
Uh I'm sorry for the girls that don't like happily ever afters at the end of their romance books. Like I just don't know what trauma. I mean, trauma's happened. That's for sure. But I don't understand the girl like are we okay? Like I've seen like the people that like some authors they're like, I don't love necessarily writing my happily ever afters. I'm like, I I get that. I think there's a time and place, but also they destroy me. I can only read so much. I can maybe only read maybe 1 or 2 a year.
Mhm.
A great example of that I feel like is La La Land. Have you seen La La Land?
Yeah, but it's been a minute.
Okay. I feel like that's a great example because yes, it's about romance and yes, they get their own separate happily ever afters, but you don't want it because you want it to be them. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. So, yeah. Those and yeah, did I cry profuse? I still do. To La La Land? Absolutely, I do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know why we got on this topic, but Chris, give me the deets of your life right now. How are things?
Yeah, I
What's
think
new?
the biggest thing going on right now is we adopted a new dog, our 3rd dog. I think we're done. There is no more room in the inn, okay?
Well, your video yesterday on your story with like, oh, it's literally you and all the dogs, and the couch is taken. Your
Yeah,
giant L couch that you have full,
yep. And
full.
so when my husband is also on the couch, like everyone's just like scrunched and like the back, like our backs are just like out of whack. Um, and so yes, we have couch dogs. Some people do not let their dogs on their couch. We we do. And so yeah, they really take up the real estate on the couch, but I saw a picture of him. It's the same like rescue site that we got our second dog. So we have Bucky, we have Kenobi, and now we have Gavriel, as in the Lion of Doranel. Okay.
When you told me his name, I genuinely screamed. I screamed. I love him. I
And
love him, and I love it so much.
we definitely wanted to do like a book character name. And we had like a few that we were throwing around and just like wanted to like see his like little personality a little bit and just like what does he look like, you know? And I'm just so like excited, okay, that my husband was like, "Yeah, I'm down to do a name from Throne of Glass." Like, what? So,
Yeah, well, and he read Throne of Glass too,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
and
and he's finished.
he's finished.
I need to know what he thinks.
He really liked it. He really liked it, which I was very thankful because I was like, listen, like this series changed me. So like if like as a married couple, like in order to continue to understand your wife, like understand me, I need you to read these. Which like is risky, right? Because in some regards, it's like if he has like any critique, I feel like he's like critiquing me. So, did he love it as much as I loved it? No. Did it like make him cry and things like that? I probably shouldn't say. Um, and he discovered some plot holes. They bothered him a little bit more than they bothered me.
Look, it's not perfect, but it's still a work of art.
Correct. But, yeah, he actually was the one that was, like, suggesting Throne of Glass name options, which
Wow.
I wasn't even gonna bring bring them to the table, because I was like, "Let me think of, like, things that, like, we both, like, really." I don't know. I just, like, didn't think to be like, "Oh, let's name him whatever," and he's like, "Rowan, Lorcan, Gavriel," and I was like,
What? Gabrielle is perfect. I think it
Yeah,
I think he looks like a Gabrielle. I think he's perfect. Because also it's fantasy enough, but it's not like because
it's
especially
not, like,
your other
weird.
dogs' names aren't like human names. Like
Yeah,
Rowan is like very much still like a human name.
right.
So like I could like Gabrielle, I feel like is a good mix.
Yeah, right. A very, like, lovable character,
Yes, we love
but,
Gabrielle.
like, not necessarily, like, a sultry book boyfriend either. Yeah,
100%.
yeah. But speaking of Throne of Glass, I noticed you're wearing a really cool new shirt, and I'd love
Yes,
for
I
you to
got a new
describe.
shirt. I got a new shirt, you guys. I don't, maybe I'll have to stand. When Chris and I get together for book trip, low key, we started this last year. The one thing that we said we were going to do was like we were going to trade book merch and like she was going to get a t-shirt for me, I was going to get a t-shirt for her. And it was so much fun. And so now I'm preparing even yes, is it May? Yes. Are we not going until September? Yeah. Have I started collecting book merch for us to be together? Yes. Because I can't help myself. I can't help myself. And so yeah, I felt like I wanted like another cuz Chris got me a Fireheart t-shirt and I mean I actually now that I think about it, all my t-shirts are Aelin because I also
Course.
have fire breathing bitch queen which I wore that. Meanwhile, you can only see like this, right? You can
Right.
only see this little square in my like teams meetings. And my boss is like, "What are you Fireheart? Do you mean this?" When you Google the movie Fireheart poster, it's a different it's like two shirtless men with like tigers. It's insane. And I'm like, "No." I'm like,
No.
"No, no, that's not my Fireheart." That's not my fire heart. So then I'm sending him fan art of Aelin and Throne of Glass. I'm like, this is my fire heart. This is what I'm doing. But then I did also wear Fire Breathing Bitch Queen. Because he's like, and then he's like, well, can you just drop the series? So I did drop the series. We'll see if he actually does anything with it. But okay, so this is my shirt. Okay.
Beautiful.
She's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. And then has all the things in the back.
All the quotes and
Sorry.
stuff.
My my thick hair.
Yeah.
It's
I am a god. I love that.
I love it. I
One,
love it.
I
I
think,
love my Etsy girls. I love my Etsy girls. Like the girls that are putting the book merch on Etsy, like I love you guys so much. Do I use my 13 tote bag as my everyday bag every day? You bet I do. Do
yeah,
I feel like a badass every time I walk around and I see people look at it and because
yeah, right.
we know, and we're like,
Hmm.
period. It's just the best. Wearing book merch out in the wild is just the best thing in the whole world.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. There's something too about like the color of it. Like I know it's like red, but like with your hair right now and your lip color, like I don't know what it is. It's like
Thank you. You know, I was a little nervous because like the reds don't match, and it's a different. It's like an ivory. I will say. I also got us a certain sweatshirt that I'm not gonna say, but like I don't know if I love the color of it, so I think I might get a different one.
what
So
am I gonna do? How do I know like when I go buy things, like whether you bought
then
it
we
or not?
have things. It's gonna be okay. Then we have things, but you know the one thing that I did get for both of us. I'm saving it. I got the best. We think this shirt
The
is good.
best. The best.
We got the best shirt ever, ever,
I'm
ever,
blushing thinking about it.
ever. I wear it and I'm like, I scream a little. I screamed like when I opened up that package, I screamed for at least 10 minutes straight, just freaking the fuck out. Freaking the fuck out. Cause it's so good and you can't get it. You like not to be gatekeepy, you can't get it, you guys. I followed this ours and I saw it and I was like, I need that fucking shirt. She's like, I'm releasing it. Pre-order only, limited time. I'm like, you bet my ass, April 14th. I was on that shit so fucking fast. It got delivered. It's incredible. We're gonna save that. We're gonna save that. It is the best book merch shirt that we will both own, and I can't wait. Jason's like, "That's an interesting shirt." I'm like, "I've literally been wearing it." I kid you not, Chris. I've been wearing it every day. I changed into this because I'm like, I can't wear this on the podcast. Not yet, not yet. But Loki, I've been wearing it every day. And that's
Yeah,
just gonna be what it is.
as
So
it should
yeah,
be.
we're in our book march era. No, you get what calls to you.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a shopping problem, so I'm just
Mhm.
buying a bunch of things.
Mhm.
But you get what looks good. You get what feels good in your heart,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be great. Obviously, there's so much book merch. It's impossible to get the same thing. And if it is, what's one more? I have 3 Aelin shirts now. Like
Right.
no regrets. No regrets at all. So it's fun. But yeah, so that's my big update. I also have a cute new necklace and I have a gold hand. I shopped this weekend. I got a fucking straw cowboy hat that looks so hot. When we do our I'm sure we will do a cowboy romance episode. We read and finished Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. I feel like
Mhm.
I want to read a few more and then maybe we like talk about cowboy romance in general.
Yeah.
Um maybe I'll wear that because let me tell you, I tried it on. I was like, I'm getting this. After I already bought this and these and 3 fucking rings. I'm like, oh, easiest decision I've ever fucking made. So definitely still in my Western era. And Chris is officially reading my like next little section of the book. Obviously I'm not officially done, but I am 96,000 words in, and I just wrote chapter 40.
Yay.
What the fuck? What the fuck? And I just finished writing my first. It's not the first spice scene, but the first spice scene is a little, you know, interesting.
Mhm.
So this is like the first like spice scene. And yeah, I was freaking out the entire time I wrote it. I was like, oh, this is why people have pen names. Cause then I'm like writing this, I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? What fucking freak took over my body? That's translating onto the fucking page. Yeah, so it was a really interesting experience. Chris, I'm really excited for you to read it. And
I'm
then
excited to read it.
I'm excited for you to read it too. I'm excited for you to read it too. And then, yeah, we'll start plotting out the events to the end of the book. Because what's been really interesting, like, 'cause I have an outline,
Mhm.
obviously, but when you are writing, things obviously happen. And the things that have happened, I'm like, I know how I want the book to end. But now the events that I thought were leading us there, I don't know. I'm like, I feel like those aren't the events that are actually leading me there. And I really want like an impactful, like, it doesn't need to be gut wrenching, but I do kind of want to like have it gobsmack, like Godsmack. What the fuck is that? I do
I actually
want it
don't
to
know.
like feel like a gut punch, maybe. That's maybe what I was going for.
Yeah.
And and what actually really, what a great segue. I didn't plan this. What actually really inspired me to really start to like rethink my ending and like the events is the book that we're talking about today, Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. You know what? I don't even have the fucking special. Yeah, I didn't even bring my special edition book with me. What the fuck? Thank you, Chris.
For the
Let's just
listener, I'm
get let's
holding.
just get a shot at Chris. Here, Chris. Why don't you hold them both up again? Let's just get a shot of Chris with the books. Yeah, yeah. Look at him.
Yeah,
Look
I
at him. We
love
have a
another
great
word.
story about the special edition hardcover that she was holding up. But yeah, Love in Other
Mhm.
Words. This is our second Christina Lauren book. And I forget how we picked this. I think my friend, shout out to Angela again. Love you, girl. She was like, you have to read Love in Other Words. And I was like, you know what? I love Paradise Problem so much. We both did. And we were like, maybe we found our next, an author we love and trust. I
Yeah.
think we're always searching for authors that we love and trust. And it didn't disappoint. It not like in the slightest. Love
No.
in Other Words impacted me in ways that I have a hard time putting it into words. LOL. So, Chris, I want you to talk about your feelings of the book, what you thought going into it, all of your thoughts, and let's just dive on in.
All right, let's dive in. It's so interesting because I actually owned Love and Other Words before we ever read The Paradise Problem, which was so weird. Because, listen, everybody, I have a habit of like buying books like at rapid rates. And sometimes, like, I'll frequent, like, at Barnes and Noble, they'll have that like buy one, get one half off table. And so sometimes I need like in order to get one, I'm like, oh, I might as well pick something else up that looks interesting. And I saw this cover and it had like books on it and a cabin and a coffee cup. And I was like, this looks so cute. So I picked it up and then it just sat on my shelves for months. And then fast forward, we find out from your friend about love or about the Paradise Problem, loved it, and then discovered one day I was like, oh my God, I have this on my bookshelf. That's interesting. Anyway, um,
Which I didn't realize. I didn't even
yeah.
know you had Love in Other Words just sitting around.
Oh, yeah, I just had it sitting around and I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting." I'm glad because obviously like we are huge Christina Lauren fans now. Um, but the one thing, so a big premise of Love in Other Words is that we are going back and forth between present day and then back of like teenage years, for our two characters like Macy and Elliot. And so this is like definitely like a second chance romance where they run into each other present day, and we go back in time of how they met and like their relationship, try to figure out like like why aren't they together anymore. When I first started the book, I kind of anticipated that maybe just like the first like 10 chapters would be like past, but I would say like maybe 50, maybe over 50% of the book is in that flashback time of them from like 14 to 18 years old.
I would say
And
even more, maybe even like 75, because I wanna say up until the very end when
yeah,
we found out the things that we find out, which I'm not gonna well, maybe we'll talk about it later, but when we find out, like, the gut punch that we
the gut
find out,
punch.
which I wanna
Yeah,
say, yeah, it was like like act 3. So I would guess a good,
mhm,
like, 75% of the way.
yeah, yeah. And I'm surprised because to spend that much time in, like, earlier chapters, I feel like normally I would be like, "Oh, like, this is, like, not for me," or maybe this is, like, feels a little YA, which is, like, interesting because we found out later that this started as a YA book. But my favorite thing about this book is those chapters and, like, the nostalgia that this book gave me. One, I think Christina Lauren did, like, an amazing job portraying these two people back, like, in those years and, like, their conversations and just, like it just transported me back to, like, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, like, and, like, just, like, the way just, like, feeling, like, so, like, seen and, like, it just felt really nice to, like, put my brain, like, back into that place of just, like, like, falling in love or, like, having crushes and being, like, really panicked when, like, your friends are ahead of you in, like, the boyfriend department or even, like, friends that you're like, guy friends that you have and finding out, like, they've kissed other girls and, like, feeling, like, jealous and, like, all these, like, emotions and, like, "Oh my god, like, everyone's, like, ahead of me," and, like, I just I just really, really appreciated it was just wholesome and sweet. I don't know. It was just, like, really special to, just, like, spend time, like, in their brains and then also just, like, have an opportunity, like, for me to go back in, like, my memories,
Oh,
I guess.
100%. It was I didn't realize so, like, when we fir I so this is my thing, when I get Rex, I didn't even read the back of this book. Like, also because I'm on Kindle too, and then I go and get a so the thing is so Chris has had this book, right? My friend recommended it. I read on Kindle first, and then I go and purchase the hardcover, the, like, physical copy. And sometimes I purchase a physical copy whenever I'm in the bookstore next. However, Chris and I, before reading this book, Chris is like, "Oh my god, Christina Lauren is going on tour for Love in Other Words. I just bought this ticket." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I wonder if she's coming here." She came to San Diego. And so I'm like, "Oh my god, we should read Love in Other Words and, like, read the book first, obviously, before going to the event." So, I did not see a cover. I did not read the back of the book. Like, when I have a when I have a recommendation, I go in blind. I don't know a single fucking thing. That blurb in the back, I don't read it. So, opening up chapter 1 being like 10 years ago and it was Macy at 14, I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "I wasn't expecting this." And of course, you're going back and forth and maybe it wasn't chapter 1. Maybe it started in present day and then you go back to time. I forget. But I didn't realize how much I actually needed to read about like a 14-year-old and like the development of and like just their relationship in general, and it's all from Macy's point of view, which I thought was beautiful, like,
Mhm.
back into like, teenage Macy, because I don't know, it was, like, adolescent, like, middle school, meeting Elliot for the first time, like, in her, like, new summer home, like, they're, like, just innocently reading books, right? And then it turns into, like, a they're starting to talk about, like, other people, and it's just them in their own little bubble, and when the outside world comes in, it's very different, and then they're in high school, and, like, they're going to prom, and they're going to boys, and it's like it was just it was beautiful, right? And so you see this what I loved about it is, like, you see this relationship developing this deep connection with another person, starting so young, right? Elliot just had this ability to, like, see Macy in a way and, like, have her feel just safe and comfortable and able to express, especially after everything that she's been through, to then when you go to present day and you realize it's been 10 years since they've seen each other, it's really interesting because 'cause you're like, "Well, what the fuck happened?" Right? So it's the biggest question that you have in this book is, like, what happened that, like, these 2 people that, like she said multiple times, like, "I literally could never imagine my life without you. Like, you and my dad are the 2 people, like, that anchor me in this world." Like, so to then find out that her dad in literally chapter 1 that her dad is dead and she hasn't talked to Elliot in 10 years is fucking nuts, right? And so the whole book you're just finding this out and it was just it was wholesome, it was nostalgic. I will never forget. I was literally reading it out in my hot tub and I was reading the part about her and Elliot, going through their like high school like, the breakup scene where her dad picks her up from the house, and he's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I literally have that memory I will never forget. My mom picked me up from play practice, and my first ever boyfriend, I knew after that practice, we were breaking up
Mhm.
because I was so nervous, he was older, I, like, didn't wanna go up to him and his friends, like, I was a freshman, he was a junior, like, we can talk about that later, but, like,
Mhm.
I remember, like, I didn't say a word. I did not say a goddamn word, but I walked into that car and my mom was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Tell me." Just like that mother's intuition, and literally, like, it was and I'm like, "I think we're breaking up." But there was something about this book that brought back all of those yeah, talking to your friends about, like, who they're hooking up with or, "Oh my god, I didn't get that far," like, trying to, like, pretend to boys that you are a lot more advanced than you are, and, like, it was stuff that, like, as you get older, you forget about, and
Yeah.
this book really, like, brought me back in time in the best way humanly possible, and it was such a beautiful story to read. It really was.
Yeah. I think too, like, sometimes with romances, there's I I struggle to be convinced, like, that, like, there's actually, like, a love there, like, a happily ever after, and I remember, like, just reading the first chapter of this book where Macy is talking about a memory of, like, her mom and her dad, and just the way Christina Lauren wrote about her dad's love for her mom, it was so, like, sweet, and I wish, like, it's been a minute, so I can't give you examples, and I'm sorry, but, like, just, like, the words that were used or, like, the way to describe her, like, the actions, I was like, "Oh, this is so sweet." And even, like, when Elliot and Macy, like, saw each other for the first time, which also, like, builds up this anticipation, like, "Oh, it's, like, super awkward, and she, like, wants to run out of there, like, why?" The fact that, like, he broke up with his girlfriend, like, the very same day, you're like,
Dude,
"What happened?" Because 'Cause you're like, "They love each other." Like, if you, like, bump into your ex and that day break up with your current girlfriend of, like, 2 years, it's
yeah.
like it was just like I was like, well, like, I just needed to know, like, what was going on, and so, like, I mean, funny enough, I mean, it is called Love in Other Words, but, like, I think the way that they just, like, described love, talked about love, and gave, like, examples was really precious too.
Yeah, I loved it. Also, like, the power of Macy, like, I'm sorry, you run into your ex slash the love of your life, and they immediately break up with their girlfriend that night. The
Isn't
power.
that
I'm
all of our
sorry.
dreams?
I'm like,
That is
literally, that is
that
what
is
dreams are made
all of
of.
our dreams. As
And then to
women,
be like, "Why did you do that?" Like, and they did not it's not like it was an immediate running into the arms either. Like, she was like, "Why did you do that?" Because she was engaged. That's right. She was engaged. That was a really, really interesting, like, through line. Because yeah, he had a girlfriend, broke up immediately. She was engaged to someone she'd, like, low-key just met, but it was their relationship was so interesting.
yeah.
Like, because it was like, oh, they got engaged so quickly. They only knew each other for 2 months, and then it, like, turned into this, like, "Oh, well, like, I just thought that, like, this is what you wanted. Like, I don't really wanna get married." Then I'm like, "Then why did you propose after 2 months?" That was the one thing I'm like, for someone that, like, rushed an engagement, not her, this rando fucking man, for someone to rush an engagement, it just felt that then wasn't into it really,
Yeah, like,
felt
there's, like,
weird.
no marriage plans or anything, or when are you
Yeah,
getting married? I don't know.
wild. But and I think that's actually one of my favorite parts was that because again, with typical romance, obviously, like, I feel like you usually kind of know where the story is going, or you can kind of see things set up. And with this, I felt like you're constantly guessing.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what happened? What the fuck happened? Someone tell me right now what the fuck happened. And like, how are we going to, like, mend this and get this back together? And then when we find out what happened, which was the gut punch of the whole book, for the girls that don't want spoilers, I would fucking fast forward or just go read the book. But I am going to talk about it because it is, to me, the most impactful part of the book was, you know, of course, Elliot and Macy are long distance because she lives in Berkeley. He's up in, like, the Russian River area, and I forget the actual town name. Sorry, but for the California girlies, countryside of NorCal. And I guess, like, it was New Year's. Elliot's drinking. He's like, "I want to marry you." She's like, "What the fuck is going on?" He's like, "I need you to come here." She's like, "I can't come. I'm, like, at a party." They get into this, like, a typical high school fight. It actually reminded me of, like, my high school whatever. So, like, it was snow day and being like, "Oh my god, I just, like, want you to come over." It was so high school, if that makes sense. It
Mhm.
really was. It was cute. But anyway, Macy decides, "I'm gonna drive up and surprise Elliot because he's, like, really fucking mad at me, so I'm gonna go." And so she shows up and, it's after midnight, so obviously everyone's been drinking. It's, like, 2 in the morning,
Is it like New Year's Eve
and
too?
what?
Like New Year's Eve, right?
New Year's Eve, yes. It's New Year's Eve. So everyone's been drinking, yada yada yada. She shows up to this house. Meanwhile, he's going to this house for, like, a friend that, like, isn't a great guy, but whatever. We all had one of those. And he is in bed, pants down, dick out, with this girl that he's kind of like, he took her to prom. They have pictures together. Like, she's always kind of been around. His
The
older
girl
brother
Macy's always
joked.
worried about.
Yes. Older brother joked that, "Oh, your other girlfriend's here, Elliot." Um, that type of situation. So it was always the girl that was like, yes, the girl that made you really fucking insecure, which I think we've all been there.
Mhm.
And so she sees that, obviously not a great look. She's naked. They're both asleep. So she leaves, goes back to her vacation house because, it's in the area, and obviously has, like, a breakdown, cries. The next day, dad drives up because he's like, "You didn't answer your phone. like, "Hello?" You know what I mean? Like, "Where have you been?" And that's when, kinda like what I was alluding to in the beginning, dad, she's like, "Elliot and I forget what she said, like, "Elliot and I are, like, had a fight, yada, yada, yada. Sorry, my phone was off." She slept on, like, the floor. You know what I mean? Intrusive thought intrusive thought of mine when we didn't know what happened, when they were at Elliot's brother's wedding and, like, her and Elliot's older brother, like, gave each other a look. That night when she went back to the house, intrusive thought, I thought they were gonna hook up. I thought that's where that story was. I was like, "Oh, no." She was so upset she hooked up with the older brother. No, it was even worse. Um, no, it was actually even worse. Then her dad's like, "Okay, we're driving back," and they wound up getting in a terrible car accident, and he winds up passing away. So, not only does she lose Elliot, she winds up losing her dad in less than 24 hours, and that is why, because Elliot's like, "I called you 1,000 times. This is something like, yeah, it was like, a miscommunication of sorts, he was drunk, asleep. She came in the bedroom. It was more like a unconsensual, I was so drunk that I thought it was you situation, which I have been low key that blackout and had sex that, like, you know, shit happens. Anyway, the point being is that to me, like, that was the biggest gut punch of the book because we don't know, like, this was your good friend, and he's like, I just couldn't understand why you couldn't at least talk to me, why you couldn't pick up the phone for 10 years. And it turns out we find out it's about because she was broken and her dad passed away and she just couldn't be there. And so it was a gut punch, horrible, but, like, beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, even, like, that whole scene, like, describing the car accident, like, it was just, like I don't cry that much at books, but, like, I was really crying, and then, like, there was, like, just these, like, little details of, like, how, she was, like, running after to, like, make sure her dad was, like, okay, and, like, the policeman, like, grabbed her from behind and was holding her while she's, like, frantically trying to get to him, and then, like, he, like, whispered in her ear that, like, he, like, lost his son that way, and just, like, these, like, little moments of, like, just, like, acknowledging the pain or, like, making it feel, like, really I don't know, it just, like, went deeper than a lot of, like, romance books, I don't know. That was a gut punch for sure. But there is a happily ever after because our Macy and Elliot, do come back together, at the end, which you know is gonna happen, like, in a second chance romance. Um, but, yeah, I agree that, like, in no way was this book, like, predictable, you know? It definitely was that whole, like, stressing over, like, what happened and everything was I
Ugh,
don't know, it
and
was perfect.
the scene of her on the floor in the house because she hasn't been
Yeah,
there in years too after the wedding. Ugh, so yeah, like, even, like, how they come back together and be together and Elliot's, like, devastation finding out and being like, "I don't know how d" and even, like, him just the humanness of, like, "Do we recover from this?" Like, it's like, "He drove up because of me." Obviously, it's not Elliot's fault, obviously, but, like, you can imagine just, like, the human thoughts going through his brain. That whole scene, and she was, like, talking to his ghost, like, it was just beautiful. The entire thing was so beautifully written. It impacted me in a lot of ways. It impacted me in a way that, like, fantasy impacts me, and that's pretty rare for to me, like, for a contemporary romance, just because it usually is really, like, light and, there's some plot, but it's mostly about, like, them coming together and, spice and shit. So this was really I don't know. It just hit really differently and it was so beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of those
Five-star
books.
read,
Yeah,
if you couldn't
absolutely.
tell.
4 stars. Yeah, like some of our favorite fantasy books, it's a book that you remember, like it sticks with you. Because like a lot of these books that we're reading, like we read it, oh great, loved it. 4 stars, whatever, 5 stars, on to the next. But like this one I feel like is like one like I still think about,
Yeah.
which is just great. I still think about Paradise Problem too. So Christina Lauren, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And speaking of like the gut punch thing, there was one part where they were talking about like I don't remember it right now, so this is not gonna be very helpful for the podcast, but I can tell you, Megan, another time. They recommended like they were talking about like there's these 3 books that they really love, and there was like one book, and they're like, when we read this one book, I think it's called Anna and the French Kiss or something. But they're like, when we read this book, like, and what it did to us, like, we decided that when we were gonna now, as because they didn't always write contemporary romance, but they were like, we want to write contemporary romance in a way that it like makes us feel, like makes the reader feel the way that we felt like when these books that like really like meant like a lot or like stayed with us. So yeah, I don't know, I'm just like really thankful for that because they write such good books, and like I'm so excited to read more, and hopefully like by then I can articulate what it is specifically about like Christina Lauren themselves that like deliver in this department. You know what I mean? But yeah, we went to see the Love and Other Words tour. I went to the tour in Wilmington, nope, Winston-Salem, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And you went in San Diego. So it was just like so fun too, like for us to read these books together and then go on our separate coasts to go see them. I loved it.
It was the
But
best.
and yeah, just like hear from them. But like I would love to know, like obviously we'll talk about like our specific events, but like I am like itching to know like between Love and Other Words and between like the event and hearing from the authors themselves, like as somebody who's writing a book and writing contemporary romance, like what were some of the things that like you really took away from either the event or the book or both?
Oh my god. Um, I feel like the event was, like, low key a fever dream, you know what I mean? Because, like, even
Mhm.
when I'm there, like and I remember I was like, I wish I could listen back as, like, a podcast, like, I because, like, they talked about so much and I was eating up every word, but then I feel like I was so present that I'm like, what did I actually take away? But no, for me, like, seeing them and just hearing them, like, talk about their process and even just, like, their evolution, like, finding out they met by, writing Twilight fan fiction, I was like, "Oh, no wonder why I love you guys so much." Got it. They were writing, like, crazy smut, crazy some kinky fucking shit. Love that for
Erotica.
them. That's how they started, and then they went to YA, and they were writing YA, and then they went to contemporary romance, and I think, like, I just loved hearing about their process, like, I loved hearing, like, after all of their years, like, I think it's Christina that does the plotting and
Mhm.
she writes the first draft and, like, really, like, sets the pace and, like, gets things going, and Lauren is more of the wordsmith, more, like, in the prose, and then they keep just swapping back and forth. So, like, I loved just hearing that process. I loved hearing that this started as YA. Like, they wrote a good chunk of this book, like, just the YA chapters years ago and wound up shelving it because they just didn't know where it was gonna go. And they like couldn't figure it out. And then when they picked it back up, they were like, oh, this is a then now. And from someone that, she's writing her debut, her first novel from someone that like low-key's never done this before. Just like hearing like little tidbits like that and just realizing it's like, oh my God, like this work can take years. I think, especially like when I'm on threads and I'm just like seeing these like indie authors like push out books, like they're writing their first draft in 3 months and like
Mhm.
getting this shit out in six is like, and I understand that's how the industry is because with indie, you just like it's about volume. Like you want to get as many books out as you can. So then when one does pop off, they have the rest of your backlog. But for me, and especially with the type of contemporary romance I'm also trying to write, Christina Lauren has been such a great mirror for me because, and Chris and I have talked about this too when we were for our Paradise Problem episode. I love romance and I love contemporary romance. My issue with like the viral TikTok contemporary romance of it all right now is that low key it's all spice and it's not really making me feel something. And there's nothing wrong with a book that is just smut, right? Like there is a time and a place and I love that, but what I love about my fantasy is like I do want to feel something. I do want to feel something when I read these things, and Christina Lauren does such a great job. And like that's what I like when I'm writing this contemporary romance, that's my intention that I'm writing with. And hearing them talk about 'cause my moderator, she was talking about, how did they create such a perfect like male main character being Elliot? And they're like, like we don't really think of the perfect male like archetype. We develop our female main character and develop and like come up with their perfect partner, the perfect partner for them. And I literally that's the one note that I wrote down. And because I there was something about it that I loved because again I think, you know right now in the era that we're in, everyone's obsessed with a shadow daddy, tall, dark, handsome, dominant, but like soft for her vibe.
Yeah.
And like that's great for obviously some girls, right? But actually like developing a male main character that really isn't just like the perfect man for me, even though like a lot of them are like my list of book boyfriends is pretty prominent at this point. But just like thinking about character development, and because I think that's the biggest thing that I think Christina Lauren does well, and I think that's what a lot of contemporary when we feel kind of like the I wish this gave us more, I feel like it's in the character development area. Like we don't know them, or like when you were talking about before, like I don't know if I feel the love between them, and I feel like it's because we're not deep enough in their character. We don't understand their motivations or what they really want, or how the words coming out of their mouths are different from what they actually want, right? And
Mhm.
like I think that's what Christina Lauren does well. And so when they said that, it just really like stuck with me and then had me look at my own work and be like, yeah, like okay, is my male main character actually he is actually the perfect like partner for her, and like doing more work. And then yeah, it really had me like look at my ending. I'm like, I want something that is really going to be impactful. And I feel like I've been building up, Chris, you can correct me because you've read a good chunk of it. I feel like I've been writing with the intention of building like a whole healing arc. Like I'm really big on character development throughout the entire book, right? Having really walking through the story of having our homegirls start out one way and wind up another, and not have it be random, right? Because I think that happens all the time too. Like all of a sudden we're at the end of the book and it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. I don't need validation from my mom. I don't need to impress my parents. I just need to impress myself. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
how did we get here?
Right. Right.
So I those were my biggest takeaways, and just realizing that like this shit takes time and like that's okay. Like I don't have to rush to get this book out. I want to take my time and I want to enjoy the process of writing it. especially writing it for the first time, because eventually it's I'm gonna be rewriting it to the point that I want to chuck it into the ocean, my laptop in the ocean, and never think about it or talk about it again. But yeah, it was like really, it made me want to go to more author events. It made me really excited to read On Honeymooners,
Yeah.
because that was one thing they were like, if we could have a rom com of anything, On Honeymooners, they said, would be their biggest
Yeah.
one. So,
That's
okay, tell me
awesome.
about your event. I want to hear everything.
Well, just like you talking about, creating like characters and like, are they the perfect for like match for each other, and stuff like that. They talked about that, but they actually, what I thought was really interesting, especially because of your scene you just wrote, I wanted to bring it up, was that they talked about like writing spice, and how it's like important to stay true to your characters and what they will do, like what they would do or wouldn't do. And speaking of On Honeymooners, they said that that's one of their most closed door contemporary romances.
Interesting.
But I think it was that one or another one, but they mentioned like one book where like all the characters do is like kiss, but it's like the hottest to them, like the hottest, like spicy scene like that they have, just because of like the chemistry that they've built like with those characters. And so like when you're writing, like if you want a book that's like spice for or smut for that, like the sake of it, like that's cool, but like for them it's important to make sure that like their characters are staying true to like who they are, and also like the chemistry that like exists, and like what would they do or like not do. But I really too, like something that I loved hearing about from them is like they were asked about like the misconceptions of like the romance genre, or just like their opinion of like the genre itself. And one of them was saying how like she hates that like contemporary romance is seen as like this like guilty pleasure. Like it's
Mhm.
something that like you say you read, but like you should be like ashamed of or embarrassed of. I feel like I'm so guilty of that, like, or that like it's like contemporary romance is like fluffy and it's like not intellectual. And like I have definitely like judged contemporary romance a lot. I mean, like I love reading it, but I've like compared it before to like this is like the reality TV kind of like stuff. Whereas like if you want to watch something like Ozark or like Yellowstone or like I don't know, something that's like a little bit like more like meaty or something, I'll be like, "Oh, like I used to read literary fiction," and like I loved hearing from them how proud they are to write
Mm.
romance, and how like it brings like so much female joy. That's what they were saying, like it's like female joy. Um
Mhm.
and how that like brings so much like power, like economic and like social like and cultural like power, and like I don't know, it's just like awesome for like women to like love.
Mhm.
um and yeah, they're just like amazing humans. I thought they were like really good people. And then they talked too just like how the industry changes itself, like the publishing industry, how like it was like print, and then it like went to like ebooks, and like then to like Kindle, and like but like now people want paper books again, like paper copies of books, and like how sprayed edges are a thing now and they used to not like be. So or like TikTok is like bringing books around that haven't been popular, like were like this one, right? Because it
Mhm.
was like from 2018,
Yeah.
and then like it was like TikTok came, and like now they're going on tour for it.
Yeah, now they're going on their second tour for it. Yeah, because it had a
So
whole resurgence, a whole
y- yeah,
deluxe edition, which is beautiful, by the way. Like, they did such a great job. with the
Yeah,
physical book itself and, like, the little stickers and everything in it is just so cute.
also with their sprayed edges. So, yeah,
Yes.
it goes
I love
back
it.
to, like, that conversation we had in our last episode of, like, things will land and be, like, delivered into the world at the time they're supposed to, and so
And I think that's what I love about books too. Like, yeah, like they're going on another tour for Love and Other Words years later, almost 10 years later, right? We're just shy of 10 years. And like I think that that's what I love about books in general is like you can create this work of art and like have it live and breathe and it just exists in the world and when it's meant to be read by people and hear people because yeah like I think they were talking about love in other words like it's not like it never really like hit charts. It always like sold steadily but it was never like insane viral until TikTok found it
yeah.
and kind of brought it back. And so that just also gives me as a writer hope too because I think instant gratification is such a thing and like you put so much work into this. And I also try to get out of my head and realizing because like they talked a little bit about their soul book, which is a YA. I forget the name, but it's like actually really the plot sounds beautiful. It's like a student who like was growing up in California, moved to Utah. He was gay, but now he's like back in the closet because he's in like Utah and like falls in love with his like bandmate. And it's like this really beautiful story. They're like, that's our soul book. If anyone like wants to like peek into their soul, like that's the book that we would give you. And like for me, like this book feels like such a soul book for me. And when of course you have that soul book, and usually your soul books aren't like because it's so deep and within you. They're like, yeah, no one really knows about it, no one talks about it, but like that's the book we are the most proud of and like love unconditionally. And so like that also just like makes my heart happy. It's like social media can just I don't know, things can just be so skewed and everyone posting on threads about their book deal or this and that and they hit this list and you always have more within you and this book can live and like exist and be and like just like you said in the divine timing it will find its way and then until that I have the next story to write, right? And I start the process all over again. And so it was just really beautiful. It was my first ever author event. Like I've never went to like a book
Same.
tour thing before and I loved it.
Yeah. It's really cool to see the faces behind the or just, like, to see their personalities, you know? Just
Totally. And I
yeah.
fangirled so hard. They're like, "Don't be embarrassed." Like, literally, I, like, walked up to this, like we were at, like, an event, and I, like, walked up to this woman and, like, literally started crying. I don't know why I started crying, but I did. So she's like, "You don't have to be embarrassed. Like, it's totally fine." Literally, I walk up, Christina's like, "Okay, red hair." I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "Yeah, we're a couple of just a couple of redheads." And then after, they're like, "Thank you so much for coming." I'm like, "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." That's all I could say. That's all I could say. I had no other words coming out of my I had no other words. Lovin', no other words, were able to come out of my mouth. So I would love to keep going. Maybe next time I can find words to be like, I didn't realize I needed to read about a 14-year-old falling in love, but I did. Like I desperately needed to. And yeah, I hope one day we can do it together because it was so great. Because yours was a few days before mine, um, and yeah, the whole time I was just like, "Oh my gosh, I just wish Chris was here
Yeah.
um, to experience it together." Because going by yourself has its own things with it, but a lot of the girls were by themselves. But that's like
Yeah.
the one thing I hated. Like everyone was just like sitting on their phones. I didn't want to
Mm.
sit there on my phone, so I just kept looking around. I just kept looking around at other things, but we'll have to I'll send the pictures, and we'll display our little pictures together because
Yeah.
they're adorable. Um, and it was the best. I want to be them when I grow up.
Well, you already got the book thing covered, so you're on your way.
We'll see.
Divine
We'll
timing.
see. I think this concludes our episode. I feel
I think
like
so.
I
Yeah.
feel like this feels really complete. Look at us again, an hour. We're so good. We're so good.
Spring break looks good on us.
Spring break looks great on us. Not following an outline looks great on us. Not having to recap plot looks great on us. So, at the end of the day, I love this for us. Um, Let us know if you read Love in Other Words. I want to know everything, all of your thoughts, all of your feelings. DM us, comment below. Remember to like and subscribe. Check us out on YouTube if you're a podcast girly. If you're a YouTube girl, you can subscribe to us on anywhere that you get podcasts. Leave us a rating. It all helps. We're just a tiny little we're just a tiny little channel that is talking about books, you know? So anything that y'all can do would be great. And we love you guys a lot. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you. We love you.
Love you.
We're
And
thankful
until
for you.
next time, we'll talk soon. I'm trying to think of our next, I forget what our next episode is, but I know at least our next read is going to be Big Beautiful Life.
Mm-hmm. By
So
Emily Henry.
love that. I'm very excited. Obviously, we're big Emily Henry girls. We had our Emily Henry summer last summer. So, along with our Throne of Glass summer.
Mm-hmm. Good times.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I think about it and I like think about last year and just reading Throne of Glass for the first time and I can't help but feel a lot of things. So, this summer is going to be great too. It's going to be different, but it's going to be great. And yeah, so if you haven't, start reading Big Beautiful Life because you'll see that come soon. Okay? Love you guys. Talk soon. I hope you have a great rest of your week, rest of your day. And until
Bye.
next time, bye.